sukkah this year? Okay, those are his first time. Please repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Wait, I know there's some people who... Wait, it's your first time. It's your first time in sukkah this year, right? Come on.
Same here.
As a conference.
What's up?
Yeah, thank you.
Get your money.
Hey, no, I don't know.
If it's the first time in a sukkah, repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Asher kiddushanu.
Asher kiddushanu.
Mitzvotav v'tzivanu. Lashav b'sukkah. Bless you, Lord God, will the universe who sanctifies the commandments commanded us to dwell in the sukkah. It's your first time. Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Shachianu.
Shechianu.
V'kiyamanu.
V'kiyamanu.
V'higianu. Lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Excuse me, I'm going to speak behind you here.
I can do a time step too. I'll be right back.
So, I say this each night when people over, so some of you have heard it this week. Every Jewish holiday stems out of Sukkot. Every Jewish practice finds its roots in Sukkot. Everything that is Jewish, actually, our Chazal, our sages teach, actually comes out of this holiday. It is very much about the temporal quality of the physical world and the eternal quality of the spiritual world. Those of you who were here Monday night, this was all green and a solid wall, wasn't it? And now it's not.
I like your
You know, there's 16 and plus 2 handicaps, so I have nothing to do with it, obviously, since I don't play golf. But yeah,
Well, you paid for it.
Yes, and I wish they had taken up. They'd rather they would have loved a sport like track and field or swimming. All I had to buy was like a swimsuit or running. No, they picked. The only thing they could have picked other than golf that would have been worse would have been sailing or horseback riding. So you're going to hear it. We're going to say the prayer we traditionally do. And listen to the words because it's really important. Behold, we are prepared and ready to perform the commandment of Sukkah. As the Creator, blessed is his name, commanded us for Sukkah, so you shall dwell for 7 days. Every citizen in Israel shall dwell in Sukkot, in order that your generations may know that I caused the children of Israel to dwell in Sukkot when I brought them forth from the land of Egypt. Be seated, exalted guests. Be seated, holy guests. Be seated, guests of faithfulness. Be seated in the shade of the Holy One. Blessed is he. Worthy is our portion. Worthy is the portion of Israel, as it is written. For Hashem's portion is his people, Jacob, the lot of his heritage. For the sake of the unification of the Holy One, blessed is he in his presence, the Ruach HaKodesh and the Shekhinah, to unify the name Yud-K with Vav-K, in perfect unity through him who is hidden and inscrutable. We pray in the name of all Israel. May the pleasantness of our Lord, our God, be upon us. May he establish our handiwork for us. Our handiwork may establish. Ribbon Kol Olamim, Master of all the worlds, may it be your will that this mitzvah of dwelling in the sukkah be reckoned before you as if we had fulfilled it in all its details and implications, as well as the 613 mitzvot that are dependent upon it, and as if we'd concentrated upon all the intentions which the men of Sanhedrin concentrated upon regarding it. So, you know how it says on the Yom Kippur we say the gates are closing? They do, except they open up back up for Sukkot. So, being here right now counts as if you did all 613 commandments.
Wow. Thank goodness.
For one day. It doesn't mean that this doesn't keep carrying over. A sukkah is not a sukkah unless you invite people over to it, and it comes from this concept of ushpizin, that we invite our ancestors, our guests, to it. We invite to the sukkah and to our meal the exalted guests, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, and David. This is today, the 6th day. May it please you, Aaron, our exalted guest, that all the other exalted guests dwell here with us and with you, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, and David. So you now all perform sukkah. And anyone who wants to sleep here, just tell them. Oh, we got good mattresses. All right, so it's really, what's B'Sheret mean?
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be. So, over 50 years ago, right? I'm in a religious school class, and the teacher is talking about this crazy guy, Kahane, and talking about this crazy guy, Reuben. And you know what's really great? That's the teacher, Mr. Lauren Naaman, right there. You could say he has known me longer than almost anyone. Very few people alive have known me longer, and no, he doesn't tell stories about what I was like when I was 10 or 12. Okay. Only as a fundraiser. Lauren, if someone wants a story, fundraising, okay? But you brought Irv Rubin into class, and proceeded to tell us how crazy the JDL was. And so, how many of you grew up that the JDL, America Kahane were absolutely crazy? And terrorists and crazy warmongers. And a few months ago, a friend Angela actually sent me a quote from America Kahane that talked basically about, first of all, I didn't know it was America Kahane, so she told me, but it basically talked about that the Jew in his simplicity of mind will rely upon other allies until they've all betrayed him, and then he will come back and return to God. And it sounded so much like Heschel or Rav Kook specifically, or even Karlbach. And it's I decided to do this deep dive into Kahane, because I'm one of those freaks who likes to study. And there are two books I would recommend if you want to read Kahane's work. Because how many of you actually read anything by Kahane? Okay, so most of us just have heard about it, right? So these are two books that were very famous books. One's called Why Be Jewish? The other, this was the last book he wrote, it's called Kach. Kach. Okay? And Why Be Jewish? And so started studying, and I had a real problem with what I was reading and studying, because I grew up, he was crazy. And then I'm reading the material, and I'm finding that not only do I agree with a lot of it, I've actually said half of it to the congregation or to other people at times, which is really disturbing. So I called Rabbi Elijah Shochet. Okay, how many of you know Rabbi Shochet? Okay, I called Rabbi Shochet. I said, Rabbi, I got a problem. I said, I don't know what to do. I'm just really having a problem. I grew up that Kahane's crazy. He's verboten. He's forbidden. And yet, I'm really finding a lot of this I resonate to. And I need your help. What are your thoughts? I said, Michael. It only works if you know it. Said, Michael. Kahane had a lot of good things to say. In fact, he said, despite the hatred he would get from his colleagues about it, he actually brought Kahane to talk at his temple, the Shomrei Torah, twice. All right. This is Shochet founded Shomrei Torah. So I think it's worth studying, especially given the world we are living in today. So as we always do, who wants to start reading at the beginning of page 1? Go, Jody, go. Read a couple paragraphs.
Rabbi Meir Kahane was born in Brooklyn in 1932 and was the heir to a rabbinic legacy. His father being a prominent rabbi in New York, and his lineage were allegedly able to trace their ancestry back to Eliezer ben Azariah, a first-century sage in the land of Israel. Baruch David immigrated to Ottoman Palestine from Poland in 1873. Kahane's father was born in Safed, while his mother, Sonia, was born in Latvia. As a teenager, he was a close friend of Era Jabotinsky, the son of Zev Jabotinsky, and much of Kahane's personal philosophy was an extension of that Israeli pioneer. To understand Kahane, we must have a brief understanding of Jabotinsky.
How many of you have heard of Zev Jabotinsky? Okay.
Who was honest even in the early 20th century about Arab problems then and in the future, and was founder of the Jewish Self-Defense Group in Russia, and later in Israel, the Jewish Legion of the British Army. Jabotinsky envisioned an Israel that was peopled not with the weak Jews of Europe, but with a different kind of Jew that had rarely been seen since the Maccabees. Jabotinsky once wrote a statement that became a starting point for Kahane's beliefs. We take as our starting point the Yid today, and try to imagine in our minds his exact opposite. Let us erase from that picture all the personality traits that are so typical of a Yid, and let us insert into it all the desirable traits whose absence is so typical in him. Because the Yid is ugly, sickly, and lacks handsomeness, well, I don't know, we shall endow the ideal image of the Hebrew.
Yiddish man, not the Yiddish woman.
Well, I don't see any unattractive men here, maybe one, but anyway. Okay, I lost my
See, everything's beautiful in the sukkah.
Right. We shall endow the ideal image of the Hebrew with masculine beauty, stature, massive shoulders, vigorous movements, bright colors, and shades of color. The Yid is stature. Oh wait, I just said that. The Yid is frightened and downtrodden. The Hebrew ought to be proud and independent. The Yid is disgusting to all. The Hebrew should charm all. The Yid has accepted submission The Hebrew ought to know how to command. The Yid likes to hide with bated breath from the eyes of strangers. The Hebrew, with brazenness and greatness, should march ahead to the entire world, look them straight and deep in their eyes, and hoist them his banner, I am Hebrew.
So understand that Jabotinsky's son was a regular dinner guest at Kahane's father's home. And so as a teenager, he grew up with this young man and learned Jabotinsky's work and really resonated to it. Please, Julie, continue with one more paragraph, please.
Kahane was a brilliant scholar, receiving rabbinic ordination from Meir Yeshiva, a BA in political science from Brooklyn College, a law degree from New York Law School, and an MA International Relations from New York University. He was a pulpit rabbi in the late 50s and early 60s, and additionally worked in various other jobs, including, according to his wife, as a consultant with the FBI, where he helped the Bureau infiltrate the John Birch Society.
Yes.
He constantly wrote and spoke about the political dangers to Jews, especially from communism, and in one book wrote, all Americans have a stake in this grim war against communism. It is vital that Jews realize the threat to their very survival should communism succeed. In the mid-1960s, he began using and popularizing the phrase, never again, and conceived the Jewish star and first insignia.
Okay, so this is really who he was. He's really incredibly active. Who wants to continue reading? So we need to know a little bit about him before we can analyze his works. Who wants to continue? Somebody, go.
In 1968, Kahane founded the Jewish Defense League, JDL, in New York City in 1968 with a self-described purpose was to protect Jews from local manifestations of anti-Semitism. Kahane encouraged Jews to take up firearms through his slogan, every Jew is at 22.
Every Jew. Now the slogan is from the movie Guns. How many of you seen Guns N' Moses? Please go see it. It's my friend Sal's movie who wrote and directed it. It's a great movie, and the slogan of the movie is go with God, may God and your Glock protect you. Please continue.
The JDL had 5 purposes: love of Jewry, one Jewish people, indivisible and united, from which flows the love for and the feeling of pain of all Jews. Dignity and pride, pride in and knowledge of Jewish tradition, faith, culture, land, history, strength, pain, and peoplehood. Iron, the need to both move to help Jews everywhere and to change the Jewish image through sacrifice and all necessary means, even strength, force, and violence. Discipline and unity, the knowledge that he or she can and will do whatever must be done, and the unity and strength of willpower to bring this into reality. Faith in the indestructibility of the Jewish people. Faith in the greatness and indestructibility of the Jewish people, our religion, and our land of Israel.
So I have a question for all of us who grew up that the JDL was this evil organization, that was crazy organization. Those 5 purposes actually are okay, aren't they? Lauren, you've got that look on your face.
Because there was nothing wrong with their concepts.
Go on.
There were
Because you knew
problems-
Irv Rubin, so you can really
There
speak.
were problems with their adherence, including a guy who walked into a mosque and executed 29 people.
But that's not what Kahane started.
No, his concepts were brilliant and correct.
Then why did you teach me when I'm under bar mitzvah age that he was Meshuggah?
Because,
You can make tshuva. You're in the sukkah. It's good.
because Irv Rubin was the leader of the path at that time in Los Angeles. He was a fruitcake.
He was what?
Okay.
No.
So, but the point is, but when we grew up, right? We thought that JDL was Irv Rubin's nutsiness, but Kahane's concepts really are not that challenging right now, are they?
Right.
Yes, Alex.
Rabbi, don't say all of us thought Kahane was nuts. I didn't.
Well, you were enlightened even then, Alex.
Yeah.
That's why your son is who he is.
It got us in trouble at
You know,
I was one of the nuts.
no, you actually. Okay, continue reading, Fiona.
Kahane stated that the JDL was not against any race, creed, or color. We are against anyone who is against the Jews. And in 1971, the JDL formed an alliance with a black rights group in what Kahane termed a turning point in black-Jewish relations. The Anti-Defamation League condemned Kahane, claiming that the JDL was a group of thugs and hooligans, and that Kahane preached a radical form of Jewish nationalism which reflected racism, violence, and political extremism. They did this despite that Kahane stated many times that the JDL was not against any race, creed, or color. We are against anyone who is against the Jews. And in 1971, the JDL even formed an alliance with a black
I
rights
repeated
group
myself, sorry.
in what Kahane termed a turning point in black-Jewish relations. In 1971, mission offices in
No,
New
he
York,
and other JDL activists.
and he served time in a hotel.
No, in 1971, he and other JDL activists.
Oh.
You skipped a
Were
line.
arrested.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
On 1971, he and other JDL activists were arrested and convicted for bombing the Soviet Cultural Missions Office in New York. And he served time in a hotel as opposed to a prison based on his need for kosher food.
That's a good tactic. I'm going to remember that.
So, Rabbi, how different was that than going back to pre-Israel with the Irgun doing the same thing when they bombed the King David Hotel?
I'm going to go into it. It's not that different, is it? It's really not. Remember, he's a fan of Jabotinsky. He understands a lot of things. We're going to get to the teachings, the actual quotes. This is just about him before we get into really what he said. Because I don't think you can understand what he says if you don't have a context of who he was as a human being. Who wants to continue reading on top of page 3 loudly? Michael, go.
In September 1971, Kahane made Aliyah to Israel, where he continued his political activities. He shared JDL materials and was a proponent of expulsion of all quote-unquote Palestinians from Israel and the quote-unquote occupied territories. He also founded Kach, taken from the Irgun motto, Rak Kach, only thus.
There's your answer. That's it. It's not, there's a direct relationship. It's not even how similar is it. There's a direct descendancy. Go on, please.
A political party based on JDL purposes and his Jewish Orthodox nationalist ideology. He ran for the Knesset under this party in 1973, receiving over 12,000 votes, and missing getting a seat in the Knesset by less than 1%. Continued to miss getting a seat in subsequent elections until 1984, when the party met the threshold and Kahane got a seat in the Knesset. Much of his proposed Knesset legislation revolved around revoking Israeli citizenship for non-Jews, for which he was accused of racism. He called other members of the Knesset Hellenists.
Why is that such an insult? Who are the Hellenists?
The Greeks.
The Greeks who remember the whole Seleucid Greeks and the Ashmoneans and all of that. Go on.
Yeah. Became totally rejected and isolated by the professional politicians of the Knesset. At the same time, his popularity with Israelis increased, and in 1987, Rabbi Kahane opened the yeshiva Harayon HaYehudi. This funding from U.S. supporters for the teaching of the authentic Jewish idea.
So Lauren and I were talking earlier, and Lauren, you were saying about he got funding at some point. That was where? He got it to open that up in 87. Please continue.
When polls showed that Kach would receive between 4 and 12 seats in the 1988 election, that's recently, the Knesset passed an amendment to the election law of Israel before the actual election that the Kach party would be unable to ever hold a seat in the Knesset based on quote-unquote discrimination towards Arabs. And Kahane and the entire party was unable to run for office. This law is still applicable today, even though there's an extremely popular underground group of Kahanists. Legal expert Alan Dershowitz wrote numerous articles and spoke about how undemocratic this amendment was and how it was specifically created to boycott Kahane and Kachists.
Who wants to take over? Who wants to read? Someone, go.
Kahane,
Either one of you.
Kahane began speaking often in America about numerous issues and passionately trying to convince American Jews to make Aliyah and move to Israel. In November of 1990, he was assassinated by the Egyptian-American terrorists and members of Al-Qaeda as Saeed Mosaid, who was initially not convicted. But after this Arab terrorist was part and convicted for the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. New evidence about Kahane's murder came out, and he was convicted in a federal court of murder as well as 9 counts related to the World Trade Center bombing. After Kahane's death, the JDL became led by Irv Rubin, and Rubin's wife is currently the head of organization. The Koch party in Israel split into different factions. Today, the Koch party philosophy is found in different conservative groups in Israel, such as the Lahava movement, and amongst Israeli leaders, including Minister of National Security Ben Gvir, former Knesset member Michael Ben Ari, and through the Ozma Yehudit Jewish Strength political party in Israel, which is the philosophical descendant to Koch, and which currently has 6 seats in the Knesset.
So when you hear about Ben Gvir, right, we hear about him all the time in the news, right? This is, he's in that lineage, so to speak, of Jabotinsky to Kahane to him. Please continue. Actually, let's go. We're going to start someone else. Page 4, top of page 4. Someone else. Go, Sam.
Rabbi Shlomo
How many of you know Shlomo Carlebach? Come on, I give Carlebach stories all the time, right? We sing Carlebach songs all the time, you know? Return again. Those are all Carlebach songs, right? Carlebach, Mr. Love and Light and Happy, you know? Carlebach, who in after the Yom Kippur War went to the Knesset, and he had a shul up in San Francisco. Carlebach went to the Knesset. He said, "You have the greatest army in the world for war. You need an army for peace. Pay for 50 of my holy hippies from San Francisco to come out. My musicians, we will knock on the door of every Arab home. We will play music for the simchas. You will have an army for peace." Knesset didn't fund that, obviously. But really this amazing, amazing being. And what people don't know is that Carlebach was actually an amazing Torah scholar. He was not accepted or cared about by many Orthodox Jews for much of his lifetime because they were angry with him, because he was such an amazing Torah scholar, and they were angry that he wasn't doing Torah. And he said what he needed to do was reach out to people, to the disenfranchised, the unaffiliated Jew, the Jewish hippie who was going to Woodstock or whatever it might be. Okay? Carlebach, we would not have had the camps that we have in this country were not for Carlebach, because of how he took verses, put them to music, and then Debbie Friedman took it from there as well. Okay? And then I guess, Lauren, you told me that Chuck also was
He was a big student of Carlebach, and a lot of his music came straight from Shlomo Carlebach.
Yeah. So just an amazing, amazing being. Please continue reading.
Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, 1925 to 1994, was known for his love for all Jews, love for Israel, and love for God. A true tzaddik, he revolutionized Judaism as it is practiced with his integration of biblical teachings and verses into folk and popular tunes. Without him, Jewish camps would never have.
I should really remember what I write before I talk. Sorry, I've been sleeping in a palm hut for weeks.
Would never have achieved their success, for his integration of music into theological teachings was perfect for the camp setting, and his welcoming style made him a pioneer in the Baal Teshuvah movement.
The Baal Teshuvah is to take someone who is not affiliated and they end up becoming frum, they become more observant. We call them a master of return, master of redemption, Baal Teshuvah. Go on, please.
His stories and teachings of Torah have inspired Carlebach's synagogues to now exist throughout the world. Known by many as the Singing Rabbi, he was known for filling a room with true love and inspiration, and for his outpouring of loving Jewish wisdom. He taught with spiritual leaders from other faith traditions, and even toured for a year teaching with Yogi Bahan or
Yogi Bhajan Khalsa,
the teacher who brought Sufism to
I'm sorry,
America.
it shouldn't be Sufism, it should be Sikh, the Sikh tradition.
Oh,
He's not
Sikh.
Sufi. He was a Sikh. And Carlebach and Yogi Bhajan taught for a year together. Yogi Bhajan is the one who brought Sikhism to the United States. Please continue.
But what is less known in his relationship with Kahane, as they were contemporaries in the same turbulent times in America and the world. Both came from prominent rabbi families in New York, and both spent their time going between Israel and the United States, preaching to Jews. Kahane once came to Carlebach Shul and asked Reb Shlomo for a blessing. Witnesses describe the subsequent words from Karlbach to Kahane. Quote, in an imperfect world, anytime you're doing something holy, there's always opposition. Reb Meir, from now until Moshiach, there should always be opposition to everything you're doing. End quote. It was a public statement about Karlbach's conviction that Kahane was doing holy work, and his belief continued as the two deepened their relationship. He spoke with respect of Kahane as a Jewish hero, despite or perhaps because of Kahane's militancy.
Who wants to continue reading? Someone else. Come on. Who else? Someone, go.
In the 1980s, Karlbach and Kahane began teaching together, organizing conferences for
Noachide.
non-Jews learning about Judaism.
Noachide is the idea that every human being is responsible for the 7 laws that are given to Noah. Okay? And so the conference. Please continue.
They taught around the world, and one of the participants was famed archaeologist Wendell Jones, who went on in 2006 to lead a group of non-Jews to pledge themselves publicly through Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz's Beit Din. They publicly proclaimed their support of Israel as Noahides, and in a large Israeli ceremony declared their commitment to Hashem as non-Jews and their support of Israel as the Jewish homeland. Karlbach expressed his respect for Kahane constantly. He retained a dollar bill he had once borrowed from Kahane as a symbol of the public debt that Karlbach believed Jews owed to Kahane. When Kahane died, Karlbach was one of those who eulogized him at the funeral. Perhaps in reality, they were flip sides of the same coin. Men with similar values and goals who each attempted to reach those goals through different methodologies. Given the 35 years since Kahane's death and 30 years since Karlbach, we have to wonder how similar or different their approaches to today's circumstances of the post-Intifada and post-October 7th world would be. Karlbach's hope of transforming the world through gentle techniques has not brought peace to Israel. If he were alive now, would he support Kahane's more militant approach? Karlbach clearly believed that what Kahane was doing was holy, even 35 years ago. Would he, if he were alive, be a Kahane?
Something to think about. All right, so do we all have a general idea of who this guy was? Right? It's you're coming from Jabotinsky and you're going into Kahane, and there's a direct line, and now to Ben Gavir. He was respected by Karlbach. Doesn't sound so crazy so far, does he? Okay, but I grew up. You can look another direction. I grew up, as most of us did. Alex, you've always been enlightened. We know this. Okay. I grew up, as most of us did, in America, that he was Meshuggah. I find it really interesting, and it says something about my dear friend and teacher, Rabbi Shochet, that he actually had Kahane speak at his temple twice.
Yeah.
Magna never had him speak, I don't think, did he? You can't imagine. Magna never did. Magna wouldn't allow anyone who might speak Hebrew. Magna was a great man. Magna knew more than most Orthodox rabbis do today. He was a brilliant and great man. He met people where they were. All right, so let's study some of what he says. And again, if you really want to kind of delve into it, this is an amazing book. It's called Kach, The Ideology of Kach. And this last book he wrote, this he wrote years earlier, Why Be Jewish? Because the question is, why should anyone be a Jew? Right? Why should we be a Jew? The world hates us. Why should we be a Jew? And what have we done? And how do we get young people to understand this value of being Jewish? Okay, so let's start studying. I took it and kind of split into just a couple of different topics. So, because I just figured that was the easiest way to do it. Who would like to start reading regarding the Kach party? Go, back there.
Regarding the Kach party, Kahane in his writings sometimes refers to himself in third person, as well as constantly using biblical quotes to justify his beliefs and actions. Two of the quotes he used to support the Kach party are, quote, "When I shall bring upon the land a sword, the inhabitants shall take a man from amongst them, and they shall appoint him a watchman for them. And when he sees the sword come upon the land, he shall blow the shofar and warn the people. End quote, Ezekiel 33. Quote, they hate him in the gate, that rebuketh, and they abhor him that speaketh uprightly. Amos 5. Kahane wrote this quote and added, how little has changed in 2,500 years.
The idea of this Jewish establishment, he viewed himself as a watchman, as someone calling out, as a guard when no one else was being a guardian. And he was hated for it. Like, no bones about it. He was hated. Continue, please.
Kahane in his writings and speeches would often quote Jabotinsky and relay this story in his writings in 1989 as a parallel to the times of the 80s. Quote, Jabotinsky sought to warn and convince Jews of the approaching tragedy, the Holocaust. He wrote an essay in the form of a parable.
This is Jabotinsky's essay.
Yes, sorry, yeah. Europe, he said, was a coach whose driver has fallen off, and the horses are racing madly towards a precipice. Inside the coach sit passengers oblivious to the danger, eating and drinking, laughing and living calmly, even as the horses race to death. And one passenger cries out to the others, quote, let us do something. Let us stop the horses. And they continue as before, eating, drinking, laughing, living normally. And the coach that was Europe went over the precipice, take with its 6 million passengers.
I have a question. Could this statement have been written 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago today?
Yeah. Yep.
Go.
It's a simulation.
That's
I'm
it's.
not saying that. but
And,
I'm saying
well, no, he will say that. Remember, look, it goes back to the idea that we think that if we're fill in the blank enough, nice enough, kind enough, assimilated enough, Christian enough, whatever, that will be okay. But reality has shown us for 3,000 years in history that every time we assimilate, bad things happen. And every time we say it gets so bad, we cry out to God, and then our ally shows up because God is our ally. And it's right there in the book of Judges. It's the same story. Everything's good. The Jews do what's not righteous in God's eyes. They forget that they're Jewish. God sends someone to conquer them, a tribe or whatever, to go to war. Things get very bad. They call out to God. They realize, we should have turned to you in the first place. God sends a judge, a deliverer, Samson, Gideon, Deborah, whomever. People are unified. They win. Everything's great. Next paragraph, same thing happens. It's wash, rinse, repeat. Over. This is what's happened. Yet we are so stiff-necked and stupid that we continue to do what's never worked for us until things get bad and then we call it to God. Right? And really think about it. On October 8th, pretty much every Jew was on the same page. By November to December, most Jews had put it in the rearview mirror, unless they were observant and davening every morning and they were talking about a shachrit. And by January, February of 24, most rabbis had put it in the rearview mirror. That's just the reality. And that's why I do these daily emails each night, which is tiring. Please continue.
Quote, what is the hatred and fear of God?
These are all these bullet points are quotes of Kahane or by Kahane.
Fear of what Hajj says. Fear of the ideas that threaten the very intellectual stability and faculty of Jews who have persuaded themselves that Judaism and the foreign, gentilized, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Concepts to which they daily pay homage are one and the same. And then along comes Koch and cries, no, Jews emperors are naked. No, there's a basic immutable contradiction between Judaism and some of the most sacred Western values, Western democracy, political equality, integration, freedom of choice. No more painful nerve could be touched, no greater intellectual torture brought to bear. Koch is a thing more dangerous to the gentilized Jewish leaders than any Arab group. For Koch has effectively declared war on the falsehood and fraud that are the very basis of the stability of the soul of the intellectually assimilated Jewish establishment leaders.
All about assimilation, exactly what you were talking about. And in the vast majority of Reform and conservative synagogues in this nation. Is there that much difference, other than a little bit of Hebrew, between them and a Protestant church?
Nope.
It really isn't. And the idea of, well, we're going to pay homage. Look at some of these concepts he talks about. Here's the reality. Judaism is not democracy. Okay? It's not. God tells us what to do, we do it. That's Judaism. We argue about it, and we fight about it, and we have judgments, because God says in Parsha Shoftim that you shall do what the judges of your time and place say. But it's not a democracy. So I've never really understood Reconstructionist Judaism. Anyone else have a problem with that? Understanding it? Never really understood.
How many people know about it?
Well, and Mordecai Kaplan, who was brilliant, and he taught at JTS with Heschel, which was interesting. By Mordecai Kaplan? So someone once explained to me Reconstruction of Judaism. They said, well, it's basically Judaism by vote.
By vote?
By vote, right? If the community says, we don't want to put this in the prayer, they don't. That's what I understand the Reconstructionist movement. Is that how you were bar mitzvah by Kaplan, so.
Well, I think it's a little more complicated.
Yes, but it's not a democracy. Judaism is not a democracy. Judaism is not about freedom of choice. The mitzvot are not a Chinese menu that you take from column A and column B, even though that's how most of us live it. Okay? The difference is between someone who says, well, I reject tefillin, and someone who says, well, I don't wear tefillin every day yet. Make sense? And there's a qualitative difference. So I had a great rabbi teacher, again, Lauren Newman, some of you may know him, named Alfred Wolf, who was brilliant and sweet and good man. And, do you know, Lauren, did he rap tefillin? I don't think he did.
He was German and brought up in a very strict Reform tradition. He rejected that.
And he totally rejected it. But he knew about it all. He knew about it all.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? These guys knew about this stuff. Judaism's not democracy. Okay? It's just not Western values on a certain level. Please continue finishing. Go ahead.
Explaining the hatred of the Jewish establishment against friend, quote, defamation is the last refuge of non-thinkers. Those who cannot debate must seek to defame.
Could we talk about that today?
Yes. Yes.
Right? Social media. Cenk Younger.
Oh.
Young Turks. Candace Owens.
Oh.
Tucker Carlson.
Oh.
Right?
What happened to Charlie Kirk?
I mean, right? If you don't do, Judaism is about being able to disagree without being disagreeable. The machlokas, the debate in the Talmud. Where's that? Even within Judaism. Okay? Chabad says, you're not a Jew unless you do this. Aish says, you're a Jew, but you're really not until you do this. The Reform synagogues say, well, they're just archaic. They have nothing to do with it. And Jews defame each other, don't they? All right, let's talk about regarding the United States and the Jewish establishment. Alex is going to love this. And what was really disturbing is how many of these things I've said. Who wants to read? Who wants to read? Someone. You want to read? Or you already read? Who else wants to read? Who wants to go?
Right.
Michael, read.
If Christians do not do for the Christians in Lebanon who are massacred by the Muslims,
But this is regarding American Jews and the Holocaust.
are we shocked and angered that they did nothing for Jews? Whom are they condemning? Those from whom we never could have expected actions. Did we really expect them to help Jews? Or the real culprits, the ones from whom we had every right to expect outrage and anger and action and sacrifice on behalf of the Jews threatened with the Holocaust? The Jews of the free world. They, the Jewish establishment leaders of the free world, who knew as early as 1942 of the extermination and who did nothing, are the real culprits, the silent partners in the Holocaust. The Jewish organizations, B'nai B'rith, American Committee, American Jewish Congress, all the rest, the Jewish federations, national and local Jewish leaders, Reform and conservative temple rabbis, all those who 20 years later were marching and protesting and being arrested for blacks and civil rights and lettuce and grapes in Vietnam. All those who were nowhere to be seen or heard with the issue was not human rights, but Jewish lives, 12,000 Jewish lives. Jews who were murdered daily. All those who marched in Jackson, Mississippi, and who broke the law in Selma, Alabama, but never blocked the streets of Washington to shout, "Bomb Auschwitz." Had the Jewish leaders and Jewish organizations led 100,000 Jews to the White House and sat on the streets blocking traffic, they would have been arrested, and the world headlines would have cried out the next day, "Jews arrested, demand bombing of death camps," and they would have been bombed. But the Jewish leaders did nothing of the kind. The Jewish establishment, the Jewish leaders, they are ultimate culprits, the criminals of silence. Oh, that's a powerful line. They were the ones who should have, more than any Gentile, shaken the world, and they did not.
Okay, is that true today?
Yeah.
No question.
Could this be written in 2025?
That's
Right? So most of you know we were the one synagogue in the state that never closed its doors during the COVID crisis. Okay, we closed COVID. I don't say crisis, but during it all, we streamed for anyone who wanted to stream. We had live services who wanted to have live services. Those of you who remember our high holidays, they were outside.
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
we had this 5,000 square foot
mountaintop
canopy with spritzers on the inside so you could stay cool and twinkle lights for the nighttime services. Remember that? Yeah. I'm schwitzing it. We couldn't have sprinklers on the bima because there's a Torah. So it's the first time since my bar mitzvah I actually had liquid on. Not that
I remember that you announced that.
Yeah, and I said because it was just too ridiculous, right? We had social distancing between families. Remember all that? We did double services. Okay. Why didn't other temples do that? We don't even own our property. Moreover, do you know that the shutdown could have been stopped by 4 men? 4 men in Los Angeles, who are rabbis, who collectively represent a huge amount of money to Gavin Newsom's party, could have called up Newsom and said, "Look, you're going to open it up, and you're going to say it's okay for us to have outdoor services. You're going to say it's okay for us to do services."
Who are those for? Text me their names.
No,
No, just text it to me.
No.
one needs to-
but there are 4 rabbis who collectively are responsible for literally hundreds of millions of dollars that go to the Democratic Party. You're going to tell me if those 4 guys called up Newsom and said, "Look, yeah, you know,
French laundry.
you know,
Shouldn't.
so just we got to be open." What do you think Gavin Newsom would have done?
You would have caved.
Yeah.
He would have caved.
Okay. And by the way, those same guys who gave so much grief to me and to this temple, some of them, those same guys, not one of them ever apologized.
Exactly.
Of course not.
Okay. Not one of them ever said we were, but worse than that, you know what they've all said?
What?
And they have said this to me. 3 of the 4 have said this to me. I wanted to stay open, but my board wouldn't let me.
Oh.
You're a rabbi. Leave.
What's the Yiddish word for Kahane?
Beitzim.
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 Missing.
Beitzim. Yeah, it's eggs.
Yiddish, I don't know.
Cojones. Okay. But the point is, that's what Kahane's talking about, isn't he? Why is the Jewish establishment not leading to stop Auschwitz? Because you know damn well they could have. And if you talk to survivors from the camps, they often say that these planes would go over to go bomb other places, and they just wish they would bomb the crematoriums.
Or the railroad tracks.
Or the railroad track, but they didn't. And Kahane's point was, you know what? The people we should be upset are not the Christians. It's not their responsibility. It's the Jews. It's the Jewish establishment. He has real issues with Jewish establishment.
The New York Times.
The New York Times.
Yep, they were
Alex.
on it.
One of my wives, who's so revered, he was a Roosevelt Jew, and he refused to do a thing. And he was so important. But he wanted to be important. That's why.
As were many, yeah. And Kahane,
He opposed Jabotinsky as well.
why is it opposed to Jabotinsky?
Wise opposed. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Doesn't surprise me. Okay, let's continue. Who was just reading? Michael, you're reading. If you could turn and read the next first couple things on page 7.
Sure. Jewish leadership has been the culprit, the criminal, the spiritual murderer, the destroyer of the young Jew. It is a Jewish leadership that long ago cut its ties with authentic Judaism, with exclusive Judaism, with the Judaism of difference and separation that yearned to mingle and mix and integrate with the Gentiles, and that plotted to make the Jewish community as un-Jewish and as similar to Gentiles as possible.
How many of you know who Michael Medved is? Okay, Michael had a great statement. He's a very knowledgeable Jew as well as a great historian. Great statement that really the essence of Judaism is about separation. It's the Ma'ariv Aravim prayer. It's really about the separation of that which is holy and that which is holy. Everything's holy, but some things aren't holy for us. Pig being one of them. These insects that swim around, called shrimp, being another one. Right? And it doesn't mean that they're not holy. Obviously they're holy. God created them. But they're not holy for us. They're holy for other people. And other things are holy for other people. And other things that are holy for us are not holy for other people. And that's what makes a beautiful tapestry of the world. But if you don't have separation, then you've got a mess. So there's a great teaching that if you think of all of the spiritual paths in the world being a different color, right? And Judaism's blue, and Christianity's red, and Sufism is yellow, and Sikhs are green, all the different colors. You get a rainbow, right? But if you have no distinction, you don't have the beauty of a rainbow. You got schmutz.
It's all shit.
It's all. I was going to say that. I just, it's on video. People might get upset if I said that, but you can't, right? So, right, it's just a mess of brown, and that's why there's a great book. I forget the title of it, about how really the worst popular song ever written is John Lennon's "Imagine."
Oh yeah.
Because when you think about it, it means there's no distinction between anything. And Judaism is about distinguishing and distinction. Please continue. Regarding the desire of Jews to assimilate into the melting pot of America.
Okay. The logical conclusion of the imperative to melt is dissolve. And certainly the surest way to end hatred of Jews is to end Jews. The melting pot went a long way towards that. Synagogues turned into temples and centers with the accompanying change in service that made them into a kind of house of worship in which any Christian would feel at home. But the yeshiva, the religious school, which was the heart of the Jewish people, became anathema. The federations, welfare funds, the communal reassurance houses that were run by feudal barons set down a policy to giving nothing, or as close to nothing, or as close to that as possible, to the despised yeshiva. Temples were created. Reform, conservative, not as spiritual houses of worship, heaped.
Sorry, heaven forfend.
Yeah,
Sorry, I made
heaven
typos.
forfend, but as counters to churches in the way that the minor Hanukkah holiday suddenly achieved an inflated importance only because it had to match Christmas, lest the Jewish child feel deprived in the class A. The temples and center, empty of anything spiritual, could not hope to give the Jewish child anything meaningful, since children are brilliantly perceptive about fraud, parental and temple both.
So I want to share with you a story. We've never gotten a grant from the Federation or the Foundation. Okay? Because we don't charge. People can do bar mitzvah training and it doesn't cost anything. And people can study and we don't charge for classes. That doesn't fit in. Allison once went to a foundation grant meeting and she came back and she said, these people aren't going to ever give us money. They're 26 years old with purple hair. And they're committed to LGBTQ agendas. So conversely, there is a synagogue. The MS, this is true. 6 figures a year grant for 5 years. What are the programmings they do? They do a really great outreach program for Purim. It's called Boobies and Blowjobs.
Oh, really? Where is this?
Not a miss, Sukkah. That's good. They have another program. They do this the night before Kol Nidre. Okay? And come purify yourself in the Pacific Ocean. This is true. In the Pacific Ocean, the night before Kol Nidre, in a clothing optional co-ed mikveh at nighttime.
Nice.
Now, look, if you want to have an orgy, go have an orgy. I could care less. But if you're going to have an orgy under a temple, God's auspices, I got a problem with that. The fact that the Federation sponsors it, I got a bigger problem with. But that's what Jewish leadership money goes to. Go look at what the covenant grants go to. Go look at what he's talking about 40 years ago. Has not only has it not changed, it's gotten worse. The money doesn't go to yeshiva. It doesn't go to the Torah Academy. It doesn't go to any of the religious schools. It doesn't even go to any of the conservative religious schools. It goes to programming like boobies and blowjobs. We need a what?
Yeah.
Jewish
A
Doge.
Doge.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of, how many are you disturbed by that? And yet Kahane's talking about it right here, isn't he? He's calling this out 35 years ago. Allison, when you went to that Federation grant.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
I knew they weren't giving us anything.
But that's the world that we're talking about. Now, the irony is that people, I'm going to use him as an example because he's a friend, people like Stanley Black write a check every year as a donation. Do you think he knows it's going to boobies and blowjobs?
No.
No. Do you think that, he talks about assimilation, he talks about things. How many of you know, a year and a half ago, Jewish Home?
That was about
2 years
a
ago?
little more than 3 years.
About 3 years ago, the Jewish Home for the Aging decided it was going to change its name
Oh yeah.
and take Jewish out of it.
Are you kidding?
No. And then some rabbi in Westlake wrote an article about it that was read by a guy that they were having a fundraising dinner about. And so he called me, this guy, and he said, "Is this true?" And I said, "Yes." And he told the Jewish Home, put the name Jewish back in, or you can't raise money on my name and have that dinner honoring me. And so then put it back in. They changed it to JHFA.
It's a horrible place. Don't ever go there.
Yeah.
What? Anyone know what the name of the Jewish Free Loan Association is now?
JFL.
JFL.
What is it?
JFL. It's no longer Jewish Free Loan. It's JFL. And do they give loans to people who are not Jewish?
Yes.
Of course. They
Absolutely.
get
Anyone,
Advertising
anyone.
on radio.
By Morton.
Okay.
On the radio.
All right. Let's continue on. Michael, where were you? Continue, please.
Okay. About American rabbis.
Oh, I should probably leave at this point.
Yeah. The temple rabbi, an ignoramus, whose only saving grace was that the congregation knew even less about Judaism than he, believed neither in Torah from Sinai nor in the God who did not give it to the Jewish people who were never there. His mission was to give interesting sermons, keep the sisterhood happy, handle relationships with the Gentiles who were, despite all the Jewish protestations, people to be wary of, and of course give the children a reason to be Jewish and not marry the Gentile next door. The temple.
I want to share something. How many of you know who Rabbi Larry Goldmark is? Larry actually bar mitzvahed me.
And me.
And you remember when Larry had black hair and then the gray stripe, the gray streak suddenly appeared. Did you know Lauren, by the way? Did you know Lauren Naiman? He grew up in Wilshire too. And that's right. Larry tells the story. Larry actually told me this story at camp a few years back. He said, so he's interviewing with Magnan to go be the rabbi there, and Magnan says, "Larry, do you talk to God?" And he's with Brewers with him, and he says, "Larry, do you talk to God? How often do you talk to God?" And Goldmark doesn't know what he's supposed to say. He's talking to the head of the Reform World, Edgar Magnan, and apparently Magnan keeps going, "I talk to God all the time. I talk to God every day. Do you talk to God, Larry? What do you say?" And apparently Brewer said, "Edgar, just stop." Okay. Did you ever hear that? Did Larry tell you? No, it's they didn't. God wasn't in the equation. God was not in the equation in Reform and conservative synagogues, and still isn't, is he? Really? So I have been told by numerous times people said, "You know what, Rabbi, thank you. Come to High Holidays, thank you." So what? Been to services all my life. Never heard a rabbi talk about God. And what do we talk about at services at High Holidays or anything else? God, Jewish ethics, Jewish values. Apparently, and I don't go shul shopping, but apparently that is not the case with most Reform and conservative synagogues. You've been to a lot of synagogues, so you can speak to that authoritatively more than I can. I mean, you do a
It
lot.
depends on the rabbi. Yeah, as you might expect.
Chaplain always spoke about God.
Really?
Not the way you would speak about God.
But he spoke about God. He had a
Definitely.
relation. And who cares? That's the relationship with God. That's beautiful. I didn't know that about Kaplan. So interesting that Kaplan and Heschel taught together for years.
At Kaplan's 90th birthday, Heschel gave the lead.
They were dear friends, yeah. Schultz talked to me about that. It's you know. Okay, please continue, Mike.
Okay. The temple rabbi. If only the Jew could understand how little about Judaism that the creature knows. The temple rabbi, the ignoramus.
This is Kahane saying it.
Who secretly agonizes over his lack of belief in a Judaism to which he has to pay lip service each Shabbat, lest he lose his $100,000 salary.
This is 35 years ago. He's talking about $100,000.
Not counting weddings, unveilings, bar mitzvahs at all, and all in cash. The temple rabbi, whose sermons are increasingly brilliant in such Jewishness as when he proved conclusively that the Bible is a product of myths of summer in Babylon.
So I want to share something. A man, again, who will remain nameless because you would all know his name, and was called the most important rabbi in America.
This is what he said.
Shortly before he wrote this. Actually called the news to come to his, I don't know, it was a high holiday sermon or the sermon before Passover, but to basically say the Exodus never happened.
Right.
Yeah.
This was the most powerful conservative rabbi in the country, and probably still is one of the, if not one of the 5 most powerful rabbis in this nation.
Wasn't he just at Harvard?
Gee, thanks, Jody.
But wasn't he?
Yes. Okay, now they're all going to mumble. Who was at Harvard? Now they're going to look up Harvard rabbi. Okay, please continue. Let's move on. But that's serious. He actually called the news so they could film him saying the Exodus never happened. Is that a rabbi's job?
No.
35 years ago. Still true, isn't it? Yes.
How did you know it wasn't there?
Oh, because maybe he thinks he's all knowing. So this is as true today as it was then, isn't it? Purim is about boobies and blowjobs, not about Haman and Esther and Achashverosh. Right? Please continue reading.
Who's the rabbi, whose sermons increasingly move from book reviews to attacks on the racism in South Africa at all, now has to persuade the Jewish youngster that he or she should not marry the good-looking, intelligent, decent Gentile just because of a difference in faith. The temple rabbi, whose interfaith services fairly shout forth the concept that there is no essential difference between Jews and non-Jews. The rabbi, not believing that God gave the Jews the Torah at Sinai, can babble all he wishes concerning ethics. But the young Jew, infinitely more honest than he, will not buy the counterfeit currency.
And so Kahane is predicting that we are going to lose more and more young Jews. How accurate was he?
Wow.
Very.
And how accurate is he?
Very.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Regarding the Jewish establishment, please continue.
The shepherds of the Jewish communities, the unelected shepherds, the feudal barons who control the money and the power, and no one elected them. They sit at the public Jewish trough, these autocrats of Hellenism, and throw Jewish money at nonsense at best, and at projects that are non-Jewish and anti-Jewish. Jewish public funds go for Arabs of Israel, who are the bitter enemies of the Jewish state and people. Is this what a Jew wishes his money to go to? Jewish Federation funds go for all manner of un-Jewish and anti-Jewish causes, not the least of which is the Jewish Community Center mentioned above, that should never be supported until it becomes truly a Jewish center belonging to the Jews and open to Jewish members only, in order to put an end to assimilation and interdating that it spawns.
You know, on the Yaqui Indian Reservation, they have a Yaqui Community Center. Okay? You can't go. You can't go. Lots of community centers in South Central for young blacks, young Latinos. I'm not welcome. People take care of their own. How come we don't take care of our own? We're taking care of our own. Yes?
I was on the advisory attorney with the Jewish, I think it was the Federation. We were doing sovereign citizens, and I said to the women running it, why do we do no Jewish classes?
Loudly, so we can hear back here.
Oh. I was an advisor. There's a bunch of lawyers. We volunteer, and they were doing everything exactly what you're saying. This is about
Not me, Connie.
What?
Not me saying Connie.
Connie, sorry, we're reading, but basically, and I asked, why are we not doing anything to fight anti-Semitism? BDS had just arrived at UCLA with the apartheid law. No, they were doing sovereign citizens and illegal. They didn't call them illegal back then. Things with immigrants and all these causes, but nothing Jewish. To your point, you had a room of like 15 lawyers volunteering. Nothing.
Lauren, you were probably in that room, weren't you?
No.
No. Did you advise on the Federation? You advise for other things. You advise for other things. You advise for a lot of people. But it's really true. Continue reading.
Okay. The Jewish establishment.
No. You missed the italics.
Oh, the italics.
My note. Italics are my notes.
Okay. Yes. Sorry about that. Today in 2025, the Jewish Federation gives 6 figures per year to a Los Angeles temple to sponsor events that are like boobies and blowjobs for Purim, of course, for Purim, and a co-ed naked mikvah at the beach in Malibu before Yom Kippur. Jewish nonprofits gave tens and possibly hundreds of millions of dollars to BLM, which has the destruction of Israel in its charter. It gave similar amounts to pro-Palestinian groups such as CARE and Jewish Voices for Peace. That's hard to believe.
Nice.
That's hard to believe. Go look at what the ADL gives. Yeah. They have to show it. It's kind of distressing and disturbing, isn't it? He wrote it 40 years ago. It's true today, and even worse. Please continue.
The Jewish establishment that destroys the Jews spiritually and physically. It ignores with contempt any suggestion that Jew hatred in the United States or the West is a serious thing. But the truth is that Jew hatred is a real thing, a terrible real danger to the Jew of the West. It is so serious, so real, so pervasive that when it erupts, it could lead to the kinds of horrors we beheld in our in our generation of Europe. Kahane is writing this.
Think about this. He wrote this 35 years ago.
And the Jewish feudal barons react in contempt. But this is not Germany. America is not Germany. Let us not be paranoid. Well, it appears to me that a people that has suffered from everyone as we Jews have, has the right and perhaps the obligation to be paranoid. Of course, America is not Germany, but neither was Germany until Hitler. Mm-hmm. To maintain that Germany is always a land of Hitlerism and the Gestapo is to betray an appalling lack of historical knowledge of a cynical desire to pervert facts. Germany before Hitler was a land in which Jews not only lived well, but one they loved well.
Are we any different right now? Did he call this out? Do you guys understand why I was having real problems as I was reading his stuff?
Yep.
Right? It's really, it's because a lot of this we've talked about. All right, who else wants to read? Who wants to continue reading at the bottom of page 8? Someone. Go ahead. Michael wants to do it again. He's doing it for Luba this time.
Yes.
You're doing it for Luba. Go.
So you told me, right?
Loudly.
The Jewish establishment. The false shepherds destroying their flock spiritually and physically. And their cold, clammy hand reaches out beyond their own communities. Destroying their own Jews, they now seek more victims. The liberal and leftist Jewish leaders and intellectuals who condemn Israel for its persecution of the Palestinians.
Oh, we heard a lot about that in the last 2 years? Go on.
Temple rabbis whose pathological problems with their own Jewishness could make fascinating dissertation in abnormal psychology, joined with other spiritually disturbed Jews, actors who peck away at Jewish survival, and novelists who feed us the grapes of wrath, professors and artists whose self-hate and self-contempt drive them to suicide, but not before they take us all wisdom. The wealthy pulpit rabbis living in Westchester and Los Angeles join in with the actors of Beverly Hills and the intellectuals of the Ivory Tower to tell Israel to gamble on peace.
How much have we heard that recently? Okay, how many of you were aware that before the 12-day conflict with Iran, a couple of days before that, how many of you know about the rally that was at, I think I may have talked about it at High Holidays, I remember, the rally that was at the Israeli embassy. So some very, very prominent Reform and Conservative rabbis at some of the senior rabbis at some of the largest institutions in the city, and the head of 2 different rabbinic schools as well, had a rally at the Israeli embassy. And they were saying, let's just have peace. If we back away, we've beaten Gaza. This isn't proportional. If we back away and we cease fire, they're going to give us back all the hostages.
Oh, yeah.
This came out of rabbis. This, and I'm not talking like, I'm talking about very big institutions. What is their value? What is their belief? And Kahane is writing the same thing 35 years ago. Isn't that interesting? Okay? To gamble on peace.
They appear on the news media and place large, expensive advertisements to condemn Israel, to place the blame for the Arab 70-year-old plan to massacre Jews on the Jews themselves.
5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer than, might be 6. I wrote an article. There was a public letter in the Jewish Forward, and it was written by and signed by over 100 rabbinic students from the different rabbinical schools, and it was supporting Palestine as a two-state solution and condemning Israel. I wrote an article about it saying these guys should all, I'm not upset at them, they're just idiots. Their deans should be throwing them out of the rabbinic school. Because these are the guys who are going to be the leaders of congregations in 10 years. These are the guys who are going to be making policy. These are the guys who are going to be telling other Jews, oh, just give it back. It was never really ours. Because they don't believe that God created the world, therefore God could not have given us Israel. Remember what we said at High Holidays. We're chosen not because we are better. Not in a universalist way either. We are chosen the way a husband chooses a wife and a wife chooses a husband. We have a special relationship. And we have 3,000 years of history to prove it. Right? And our engagement was when we got out of Egypt. We got married on Shavuot at Mount Sinai. Our ketubah is the Torah, and the dowry was the land of Israel, as defined there. That's just our theology. This is what Kahane is talking. Please continue. The fat establishment.
The fat establishment Jews fly into Israel, always as return tickets, to warn the government that it cannot expect unconditional backing of the Jews of comfort unless it makes quote-unquote painful concessions. And they return to the comfort of their not-so-painful suburbs, far, far away from the rocks and mold of cocktails and knives and hatchets and bombs.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Isn't that a great statement? Okay, Michael, I'm going to use an example. If I'd asked you a month ago, what do you think of Meir Kahane? What would you have said?
I would have associated him with Reuben, and I would have said radical.
And now, as you're reading this, what do you think?
I want to read those books.
That's such
He said,
foresight.
say it loud. Say it loud.
I said a month ago I would have thought of Kahane as a radical extremist, mostly because I guess I have awareness of Irv Rubin and what he did to the organization. But I think this class has taught me to look deeper, read the books, become knowledgeable, and I think I would change my mind if this is what I would read from there.
Alex?
I read the book Kahane. I have it at home. This is what a lot of the stuff the rabbi has comes directly from that.
Yeah,
book.
these are all direct quotes from these books.
Yeah.
And these are not, it's not like these are, if it's got a bullet point, it's a direct quote. If it's me, it's in italicized.
Read the book. That's
Yeah.
exactly in the book.
Yeah, it's eye-opening.
It's really, how many of you are getting your eyes open about a different take on Kahane? You already knew about Kahane already? Okay. I can't talk to you. You know me longer than anyway. Okay, let's continue reading regarding Israel. Let's look at Israel for a minute, okay? Because remember, he made Aliyah to Israel. He lived in Israel. Came back to the U.S., would teach and speak whenever he could, including teaching with Karl Bach. But he also, this was in Israel. He had the Koch party, all this. So who wants to start reading about Israel, starting with regarding how the dream of Israel is different than the reality of Israel? Go, Doris.
Let me stand up. My voice protects. Regarding Israel, regarding how the dream of Israel is different from the reality, in the Jewish state, a dream of ages becomes a nightmare. For 2,000 years, the Jews had a dream. Through Hashem's mercy and Jewish sacrifice, there exists today a sovereign Jewish state. The dream. The dream? There is no fear in the state of Israel. There is no humiliation. There is no terror. There is no gnawing sense of foreboding of what will be. Months and months a year, more of an Arab uprising, and the army of Israel was able to smash Arab armies, nations that won a war in 6 days, is unable to put an end to rotting by Arab women and children. I'm sorry, getting a little bit emotional reading this. Sorry. They attacked the soldiers with stones, with fire bombs. Oh my goodness. Unafraid, I don't think I can finish this. Unafraid, taunting and cursing and harrying. And the soldiers, I can't read on.
I'll finish.
I apologize.
Go.
And the soldiers of Israel stand in frustration, hobbled by insane orders drafted by confused politicians who are themselves ideologically bewildered and guilt-ridden, unsure of the justice of their own cause and fearful of world reaction. And as
This is all true today, isn't it?
Yes.
Even truer now than it was then.
Right.
Continue.
And as the Arabs see the soldiers back away, and as they see that army policy is to allow them more and more to do whatever they wish in their own villages, should it surprise us that they grow bolder and more confident, attacking soldiers and vehicles almost with impunity.
And kidnapping.
Right.
Torturing.
A
Please
Jewish
continue.
state that did arise. There is terror, there is fear. Jews are afraid in their own land. In Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, the Jewish holy city, Jews are attacked daily with stones and firebombs. Jews are murdered in cold blood by Arabs who are unafraid. The bitter truth is that the Jew is afraid in larger and larger areas of his own state land. And the bitterer truth is that the Arab is not.
When the St. Evans says Kahane,
Right.
he actually put that in bold in his books. Continue.
The intifada grows bolder, and it must, spread into the state of Israel, reaching into more and more Jewish areas. For in the Middle East, in the mind and the world of the Arab, it is strength and weakness that set the tone. When the Arab sensed Jewish strength and a Jewish army unhobbled by anyone, he sat in fear and passivity. When he began to sense, rightly, Jewish weakness, hesitation, and fear, he rose up to carry out the never-ending dream, the return of Palestine, a dream to be built on the ruins of Israel, the Jewish state. The Arab sees Jewish weakness, hesitance, impotence, indecision, fear, and he repairs the sharpened hatchet and knife. And as the Arab sense of power, pride, victory, and above all, justice of his cause grows and flourishes, so does there arise, like some noxious weed, a growing number of Jews stricken with a sickness of soul that only be termed a kind of spiritual and psychological AIDS. Deeply troubled people driven with guilt that time dishonored Jewish disease. They were conceived in the psychoses of an exile of centuries and born in the self-hate that afflicts so many of our people, emphasis Kahane. Their guilt and self-hate drive them to question not only the justice of the Jewish presence in what they term the occupied lands, but even to doubt, in the recesses of their troubled minds, the very right of the Jew to have come to the land of Israel in the first place and take the land from the indigenous Palestine.
Jews for Palestine. My favorite one. Queer Jews for Palestine. Right? Who, if they went into a world of Sharia law, which is what the Quran and the Hadiths command. Remember, the Quran and the Hadiths are clear that the goal is a worldwide caliphate of Sharia law. How many of you read the Quran or the Hadiths? Okay. It's
insane.
Jewish scriptures are about theology and relationship with God. Christian scriptures are about theology and relationship with God. Buddhist, Hindu, these texts are about theology and relationship with God. The Quran and the Hadiths are about it's a business plan that is about it's a business plan for world domination, to create a worldwide caliphate of Sharia law. If you do not accept that, you're a kafir, an infidel, meaning that you are to be enslaved, killed, or converted, and it doesn't even matter if you're what we call moderate Muslim.
There are no
Okay, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
So, Kahane understood this. So please continue reading.
The poor Palestinians, who seek only peace and their own state, who seek only what was taken from them by Israel in 1967. And what is the obstacle today to peace? The occupied lands of 1967? If so, how wonderful it must have been in 1966. 2 weeks before the Six-Day War began in 1967, all the lands, Judea, Samaria, Gaza, the Golan, East Jerusalem, were in Arab hands. And in every Arab city and town, in every Arab capital, the mobs hysterically cheered and marched and shouted, Itbach al-Yehudi, slaughter the Jew, Israel into the sea. What was going on? What do the poor Palestinians prepare for war and slaughter in 1967, 2 weeks before the Six-Day War? Obviously, because of the occupied lands, which Israel took during the Six-Day War. Could the attempt to wipe out Israel in 1947 have been because of occupied lands of 1967? And between the years 1936 and 1939, no less than 510 Jewish men, women, and children were murdered by Arab mobs in 3 years of pogroms. What was troubling the Arabs then, when there was not even a Jewish state in existence? Could the pogroms of 1936 and 37 have been the result of Arab anger over the occupied lands of 1967? And in 1929, when the Arabs massacred 67 Jews in one day in Hebron and nearly 20 others in Safed, could it have been because of their fury over the occupied lands of 1967? Emphasis
They were
Kahane.
psychic.
Yes.
Psychopathic or something. Please continue. This is all really interesting, isn't it? How many of you guys find this? Okay, please continue.
The Jewish lemmings of guilt and self-hate have learned nothing and remember less. They are the greatest weapon the poor Palestinians have in their jihad to destroy the Jew and his state.
I said this a while back to someone, and I think a few years ago, and it really has become a personal mantra. Because he asked me, how is it that the Jews don't remember? And I said, Judaism has a very long memory. Jews have a very short memory. We celebrate and we observe things that happened thousands of years ago, but we can't remember what happened on October 7th. How many of you remember those images?
They're horrible.
I saw images that I saw images that burn my mind, that I will never unsee. And the reason, again, that every night at 3 in the morning I'm writing is because I think that we need to keep it in our consciousness.
Should be coined Jewish dementia, where short-term memory is gone. And long-term
Jewish
memory
dementia, except that for most of Jews, that would be redundant, right?
Is it protective in some way?
I think in some way it's very hard to deal with the evil and be confronted with evil. I think, and to see that kind of evil. I think another part of it, though, is that, so part of it is protecting ourselves because it's so painful. It's easier to block out trauma than to really integrate it. But another part is, and this is a big difference between theology, between religion, whether it's Judaism or Christianity, and Western secular values. Western secular values says that evil does not exist. Okay? Your enemy is not your enemy. He really is a friend. You just have to figure out how.
That's not secular. That comes out of Marx. That's
go on, because you're 100% right. Go on.
Yeah, it's not secularism. People have used people who are pushing secularism have misinterpreted what the separation of church and state means.
Absolutely.
What it means is that the state doesn't enforce any form of religion on somebody, which they're doing right now in Dearborn by allowing the mosques at 5 times a day to do the call to prayer. That is government-supported religion. That is a direct violation of church and state. So they're hiding Marxism under secularism and this whole idea, and they've bastardized the whole founding of this country.
Yeah, this is not what the establishment
They don't even. People have to understand too that Jews have been a part of the history of this country since Columbus, and since even on the Mayflower. We without us and certain things that we did during the Revolution and French and Indian Wars and things like that, America never would have been America. It would have ended up part of Mexico, part of this, part of that.
Which is why you should all come to the class that we do before July 4th on the American roots of the Jewish roots of America. Because how many of you knew Christopher Columbus was a Jew?
Yes.
And Alexander Hamilton was a Jew?
Oh, I didn't know.
Hamilton was born in the Caribbean.
That's it.
Hamilton was born in St. Thomas.
That's right. And his mother was buried in a Jewish way, and he was raised at the yeshiva there.
Yeah.
Those are the people who paid for him to come to the mainland. So, but the point is that whether you call it secular or Marxist, it's because Marxism is just another form of religion, secular. We have taken religion believes in a Yetzer Hara, they believe in evil. We accept evil exists. It has to exist so we can choose good. But over here, evil doesn't exist. That's a big problem, right? And so, Jody, it's really it's about confronting someone, confronting your own core belief. I have a dear friend who was a huge supporter. He's very conservative. He's actually very middle of the road. We like to say he's right between Genghis Khan and Attila the Hun. So he is, he's far right. And he was a he is a huge fan of Candace Owens and believes that all of the attacks on her anti-Semitism are all taken out of context and that in fact it's all a liberal plot to tear apart the conservatives. I'm not going to get into the delusion quality. I'm only going to point, but it's very hard if you have a core belief evil does not exist. And you see what happened on October 7th, and you see a man being beheaded by a hoe, and you see literally, and you see and how many saw the 47 minutes or any part of it? See some of the stuff that you see.
It's not just that.
You can't, but that's hard to say. You have to equate it. You have to say, okay, either my belief, my whole life is wrong, and their evil exists, or you have to say, oh, you know what? They're justified because they're just occupied. It's your mind has to. That's kind of the answer to your question. Yeah, Alex.
Also, it's an eternal bunch of baloney regarding victimhood.
We're going to get more to victim. We're going to get about one more. Please let's continue reading. We're going to get to more victims. Come on, go ahead. Who's reading your staff? Who's reading? Jody, continue.
Moderates? There are no Arab moderates. There are only clever Arabs and stupid ones. The stupid ones say exactly what they mean. Eliminate Israel. The clever ones, and more becoming so, mean exactly the same thing. They are clever. The clever Arab has recognized the existence of Israel. True. Much in the same way. Louder. Much in the same way that we all recognize the existence of earthquakes, disease, and roaches. Of course, we recognize them because they exist. We recognize their existence in order to put an end to their existence. So too with
That should say Arafat, sorry.
Oh, he recognizes Israel's existence. The Arab moderates believe that the Jewish state of Israel is a bandit, settler state that has stolen Palestine from them. And because of that, and with deep sadness, no one knows that there will be no peace. And let none of the comfortable denizens of peace now in Beverly Hills or the woodpeckers of Hollywood or the pompous pulpiteers of reform liberal temples screech in indignation. Kahane does not want peace. Kahane does not want peace? Where do I live and where do they live? I, who live in Israel and serve in its army and whose children serve in the army, desire peace a great deal more than the shallow liberals and leftists of Peace Now and those paragons of reform shallowness, Alexander Schindler and Balfour Brickner, who regularly trumpet declarations of suicide through peace. Let us not delude ourselves, and let us not believe in delusions. The great Rabbi of Kutzuk once said, "It is a sin to deceive one's neighbor. It is a crime to deceive oneself. Wishing peace and yearning for peace does not mandate committing suicide for peace."
Can I take that paragraph? Can we use it on October 7th? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, it's kind of a lot of what's being said could be said now. We've talked about this. For those of you who have not taken class in this, I want to go over very briefly the history of Palestine. Okay? There is no such thing as Palestine. There's never been such a thing as Palestine. There's no country of Palestine. There's no language of Palestine. There's no people of Palestine. There's no stamp of Palestine. There's no currency of Palestine. When Judea, was conquered by the Romans, they decided to call the entire region Palestina.
Right.
Okay? Not just what we call Israel, but Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, the whole region, like we call the Midwest, was called Palestina, named after a tribe that had been gone for centuries as a way of trying to make sure that no one ever remembered the Jews. Okay? That region is still called that. It was called that. We went through the Ottoman Empire with the Marbuks and the Ottomans. Eventually, the Brits make a deal during World War I with the 3 Arab families that we're going to put you in leadership positions of these countries if you help us support us, right? And so they support him, and we have these kingdoms that come up. And they create a mandate, and they call the mandate of Palestine. The British mandate of Palestine. If you had a passport, anyone seen Golda Meir's passport? It said Palestine on it. And anti-Semites are happy to say, see, Palestine, Palestine. No, it said British mandate of Palestine on the passport. And there has never been a Palestine. When they attack in 48 and they lose, what would be Palestine is Jordan, where Gaza was Egypt. The great-grandparents of the people in Gaza called themselves Egyptians, not Palestinians. There's no relationship between the people in Gaza and the people in Judea, Samaria. No historical relationship whatsoever. No linguistic relationship, no cultural relationship. But they keep losing. And in 1964, funded partially by the Soviet Union, the United Arab Emirates, the Arab League, goes to a public relations company in New York called Armstrong, Yahtzee, and Hirsch.
Right.
And they go to this firm and they say, we're losing the battle. Not only are we getting our butts kicked in war, we're getting our butts kicked in the press. What should we do? And they say, you need a victim. And the Palestinian Liberation Organization was born. Prior to that, no one called themselves Palestinians.
The Jews.
Right? No, and none of the. So understand the concept of Palestine was created as an enemy to Israel. Right? And you studied foreign relations at UC Berkeley with an emphasis on Middle Eastern. What am I missing? Then Arafat takes it more and more. And they all become billionaires. Right? But the purpose of the concept of Palestine is not to have land. It is to create an enemy of Israel. And it is the victim. And that has become, over the last 61 years, the bigger lie that Hitler told. Who wants to continue reading? We are at middle of page 11. Enough. Go, Selena.
Enough. There is no Palestine.
Loudly.
Enough. There is no Palestine and certainly no Palestinian people.
This is Kahane, not me. I'm sorry.
They are Arabs. Kahane goes on to explain history of the region, how the name was changed from Judea to Palestina by the Romans, and how there has never been a people, country, currency, language, culture, or anything Palestinian throughout history until 1964. No sanity is added by the incredible orders that hobble the soldier. He is given a gun, sent to Gaza or Yenin, or Calkilia, or other dangerous areas where Arabs wait to stone him, firebomb him, and kill him if possible. And then he is told that he cannot use the fun.
Sorry, I should say gun. Sorry.
Cannot use the gun.
Come on, cut me some slack for typos, okay?
He cannot use the gun, or else must use it under the most absurd of limitations. And if he violates the madness, he is placed on trial.
Boy, this is true right now, isn't it, for the last 2 years?
Yep.
Keep going.
In this surrealistic snake pit, the news media, invariably viciously hostile to Israel, are allowed free access to the territories. Not only does the very sight of a camera guarantee Arab violence against the soldiers, but the soldiers inhibited and prevented from behaving normally by the fact that the news media is watching and recording.
Could this all be a commentary on what's going on since October 7th?
Yes.
Please continue.
The PLO does represent the Palestinians. Admit it and stop running from it. The PLO, with its plan to wipe out the Jewish state, speaks for the Palestinian people who also seek to eliminate Israel.
And it's still part of the Charter of the Palestinian Authority. Okay? You know, go look at the Covenant of 1988, the Charter of Hamas. They're very clear. Their existence is to destroy and remove Israel from and kill every Jew. And it says it in the Covenant. Please continue.
And of course, every Jew who is murdered in the land is murdered not only by the Arab who wields the knife or gun or rock. He is murdered by the silent partner, the Jewish leadership that allowed the intolerable situation to continue by refusing to take the necessary steps to save Jewish lives. For decades, beginning with the left that controlled the Jewish community in a land before the state came into being, there was vicious attacks on Jewish normalcy. In the 30s, as Arabs massacred Jews almost daily, and more than 500 Jews were buried in pogroms, the official policy of the official Zionist leadership was a mad thing called havlaga, self-restraint. They murdered Jews, and Jews restrained themselves, for Jews were quote-unquote better. Deader, but better. Jews did not sink to their level. They sank 6 feet below.
Wow, that's pretty intense, isn't it, this guy? Wow. Go on.
Modern-day Zionism arose in order to create a Jewish state, and so Zionism demands a permanent Jewish majority. But that is not Western democracy.
But no one cares in Western democracy about all those Islamic nations, do they?
None of them are
right?
democracies.
The one Jewish nation that's not democratic. Please continue.
A quote-unquote good Arab is exactly like a good Jew. A good Jew is one who believes that Israel belongs to the Jewish people. Now you know what a good Arab is. Yes, one who believes that it belongs to the Arab people. Why is the liberal Jew so obtuse? Clearly because he is too terrified to want to see the truth. No Arab state wants to die for Palestine. Indeed, when Jordan in 1943 went to war with the new Jewish state and took the West Bank, it kept it. It did not create Palestine.
Should be 1948.
Yeah, 1948. It did not create Palestine, nor did Egypt when it took and kept the Gaza Strip.
Sure, Egypt could have created Palestine. Jordan could have created Palestine. No one did they? This is all true. I mean, how accurate is this for right now? That's what's so really was disturbing to me. Please continue. Who wants to read about Kahane's vision for the future of a safe Israel? Who else wants to read? Are you leaving us?
Yes, good night.
Okay, bye.
We're up at 5.
Who else wants? I don't even know what time it is. Who wants to read about Rolosan? Who wants to read Kahane? Well, 2 pages. Well, not even 2 pages. Who wants to read about Kahane's vision for the future of a safe Israel? Go, Fiona.
The Arabs of the entire land shall be given an opportunity.
This is what he thinks Israel should be. Okay?
To accept the land and state as that of the Jewish people. If they do so, they may remain in the land as resident strangers, non-citizens with full personal rights, but no national rights, no vote in the national elections, and no political authority whatsoever.
In other words, any Arab who wants to accept this as a Jewish state of Israel, please stay in Israel. It's fine. You don't get to vote. That's not Western democracy, is it?
No.
But it keeps the Jewish state. Please, loudly, continue, Fiona.
Those Arabs and other non-Jews who refuse to accept the land of Israel as that of the Jewish people will be compelled to leave the country. If they leave peacefully and quickly, they will be compensated for their property after adjustments made for the billions of dollars worth of Jewish property seized from 800,000 Jews who fled Arab countries and came to Israel. If they resist, they will be expelled with no compensation.
It's
Martins.
Clearly, he had a degree in law. Yeah, he knew how to negotiate. Please continue.
The Muslims and the mosques shall be removed from the holiest site in Judaism, the Temple Mount, and the disgrace of the desecration of Judaism ended. Consider the reaction of Muslims, and rightly so, to a Jewish synagogue on the holy Muslim site in Mecca. And yet Jews sit and enforce the abomination of Muslim rule and prohibition of Jewish presence on the Temple Mount.
I have a question. How many of you think that the mosque at the Temple of the Mount should have been destroyed and created a synagogue? How many of you think it should not have been? Tell me why those of you who think it should have been as soon as we took the land, 1967. Those of you, someone who said that it should have been, why do you believe that?
Because they built on top of what we originally had. They tried to destroy what we had, and we need to go back to the roots of what was there.
Okay. Those of you who said that it should not be destroyed, why?
It's not our choice.
What do you mean?
If it's going to be rebuilt, it has to be done in a. I don't know how to explain it.
So let me ask the question. Like, how many of you believe that it should be destroyed? Forget about building something new.
Okay.
That the mosque should be removed.
Yeah.
How many believe the mosque should not be removed? Why?
Well, we create a political storm that would be very hard to overcome.
So they said about.
Wait. That is the answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, he said because it would create a political storm that would be very difficult for Israel to overcome. That is the answer why it's still there, isn't it?
Right.
Go on, Alex.
But that is the why. That is why. Pardon me.
Loudly.
That is why so-called rabbis in this country are afraid, and Jews in America are afraid. They're afraid of political storm. They're afraid of antagonizing the goyim. Now say the word.
So it's Goyim just means nations. So let me ask you a question, right? By that logic, right? That is a lot. And by the way, Ken, you are 100% right. That is the logic of keeping it there. Okay. But here's the question. That means that we place our faith in the allies of people, not God, doesn't it?
Right.
Right? Right?
But it's not a
practicality of it. Right? Yeah, God's great, but let's be practical. Right? Yeah, right? That's the modern 20th century Jewish attitude. Yes, I believe in you, God. I believe in you. But you know what? I got to pay my mortgage. I got to be practical.
That's why they gave up.
Loudly.
That's why they gave up Judea and Samaria in the first place. Because after we took all of Israel back, except for Jordan and parts of Lebanon that they gave away in different deals, they wanted peace. And land for peace, it's once we took it back, it's not ours to give away. It's up to God. And that's why I say I feel the mosque should be destroyed, but if it's destroyed, it can't be by man's hand.
Well, it can't be rebuilt.
Can't be rebuilt.
Can't be. They're a whole different thing.
That's
The idea is
what I
that
mean.
God, the temple built,
Yeah.
right? But it could be destroyed.
Right.
Rabbi Abraham Greenbaum, with a picture of him right there, my friend and teacher for over 30 years. He actually is one of the founders of the Breslov Research Institute, considered one of the great Kabbalists of our time. Okay? And we'll go to Israel next summer because this trip was postponed. Hopefully he will be healthy enough and we can spend some time with him in Sfat. He used to live in Jerusalem. And he had a great statement once. He said, anything built by mankind will be destroyed. By other men or by God, it will be destroyed. The mosque that is there will be gone.
It's a shrine.
Okay? It's gone. It will be gone. Anything will be. Whether it's by man or by God. And it says in the prophecy of the rebuilding of the temple, which is not only talked about in the different prophetic books, but is really explored by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, in his book Secrets of the Future Temple. It says in all the prophecies that the house of God, that we will all go worship at the house of God. It does not say B'nai Avraham, meaning children of Abraham. It says B'nai Adam, the children of Adam.
Right.
The future temple will be a place for every human being to pray. Now, the wall, do they say, Ken, you can't come in, you can come in, you're Jewish? Abdullah, you cannot come in, you're not Jewish? Do they say up at in the mosque, in the shrine, Abdullah can come in? Ken, you're not allowed.
Yeah, they do.
Okay? So you just made a really good point. We intellectually, if we really have faith in God, we really believe God's our ally, right? Then in fact, what's the problem with we got the land back by a miracle in 6 days, right? Let's raise the mosque to the ground. What's the problem with that if you really is about faith with God? The answer is the fear that something will happen. And the opposite of fear is faith.
There was
go on loudly.
During this latest war, like a month or two ago, there were groups of I think at least hundreds, if not thousands of Jews who were on the Temple Mount praying openly on the Temple Mount, and nothing happened. It was something really special and things were moving more towards re-annexing all that and taking it back. And because of this ceasefire, all that is stopped.
Okay.
And that's part of the deal that Turkey and Qatar sat on and forced.
And are enforcing. Now, what's one of the other big issues? Take that same concern, but really it's not just about the Arab world, but we would lose the Jewish establishment in America, wouldn't we?
Yeah. It split it even more.
A lot of it, right? The Jewish Federation Council is going to give its money. Is it going to give it to Friends of the IDF if they raise that mosque, or is it going to give it to more blowjob and boobies things? I just like saying that because it just shocks Stan so much. Right? So let's continue in the middle of page 13. We're almost done. Regarding the possibility of losing American support, what does Kahane say? Because, Ken, what you just said is 100%. That is the practicality of the issue, right? Well, let's see what Kahane says.
Well, it happened here during 2 years ago when a particular synagogue didn't want to upset the Arab or the Muslim community that was renting their temple. So on high holidays, they covered up the pictures of the hostages so that they wouldn't upset
And the
them.
rabbis were part of that decision.
The rabbis made the decision, and this was in Woodland Hills.
Thousand Family Synagogue.
It wasn't in the middle of nowhere. And it was for the exact same reason. And this is the same community that when the Muslim temple that was built in Woodland Hills, the Jews from that synagogue, the Jews from that synagogue put together a group that helped plant and put trees and beautify the Muslim mosque. And yet, with all the help that was done, when the Jews needed to use the restroom, they were told no, they had to walk down to Ventura Boulevard to a gas station because we were allowed to help on the outside, but we were animals and would desecrate their inside.
This is good. We're not talking about ancient history. We're not
within
talking about
2 years, within the last 2 years.
This is what you guys got to really hear this. So what Kahane is saying is really appropriate. But regarding the possibility of losing American support, because that's a big concern. Harvey, would you be kind enough to start reading in page 13, the middle of the page? He elucidates some numbers about the possibility of losing American support.
One, by constantly moaning.
All of a sudden you became quiet. Loudly.
One, by constantly moaning about the terrible disaster that loss of American aid would be, the Jew simply invites American pressure. It is only when the United States realizes that it is dealing with people who are prepared to go to the end, with or without U.S. help, that they will realize, too, that their political pressure card has no value.
Interesting statement, isn't it? Go on.
2, if it is impossible to expel Arabs because we may lose U.S. support, what will our reaction be if the United States demands that Israel give up all its territory?
Oh, look, this threat seems rather present, doesn't it? Go on.
Shall we do that? Of course not. Either we can stand up to America or we cannot. If we can, let's stop wiring our hands over Arab expulsion. If we cannot, let us prepare to give in to everything. 3, what in the world is this Shiite mentality, shuttle mentality, that drives us to believe that Americans love us when we are good, and when we had thus better watch our step in the face of the barren? No country, including America, supports any other country because it is good. Countries have no friends. They base their policies and support of other countries on the basis of self-interest. The United States has supported such good and democratic countries as Franco's Spain, Salazar's Portugal, the colonels of Greece, South Korea, South Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Jordan. Let this be clear, and let us rid ourselves of the exile within us before we talk about getting ourselves out of the exile. America bases its foreign policies on its own interests. Let's get off our knees and stop thanking America for its favors.
Continue. It's still his writing. He's the one who emphasized with the bold letters. Keep continuing.
Koch believes the U.S. economic aid is not only helpful to Israel, not helpful, but it is ultimately disastrous.
And we have seen that to be true, haven't we? Which is why Israel is now creating its own weapons plants, has gone back to building the factory to build fighter jets. Israel had created fighter jets some 30 plus years ago, I think, about 30 years ago.
Right. Better than what we have today.
That's right.
Wow.
And they decided it was financially more prudent to trust the United States, who would always be their ally, to get all the fighters. And now they realized during the last administration that was not such a good idea. And they started doing, I think it opens in 27?
Yeah.
Right? The new factory. Okay. Building fighter jets. Please continue.
Kahane writes and speaks over and over on the need for Jews worldwide, and Israel even more so, to stop having faith in anything other than God. He contrasts how Israel took the first strike in the 6-day war without worrying about the international ramifications, and the war ended quickly. Conversely, he speaks of the Yom Kippur War as an example of a failure because of concern for international ramifications.
Now we go back to his quotes. That was my comment. One.
The 6-day war was a miracle far greater than that of the Maccabees. The Maccabees fought for 25 years, and Israel won the war in 6 days and liberated its ancient lands of the Bible. And the Yom Kippur War, the exact opposite. Israel deliberately allowed the Arabs to attack and did not inform the soldiers at the Suez Canal. 4,000 soldiers died, and Israel's existence hung by a thread for 3 days. Had Israel struck the first blow, warned and recommended by the Chief of Staff, David Eleazar, without worrying about America's reaction, the entire Yom Kippur War would have been aborted.
So let me ask you a question. We're now 2 years since October 7th. How many of you think Israel should have finished this by December of 23?
They probably would have had less political...
Well, they definitely could have. There's no question they could have.
They would have had less political blowback if they had probably done so.
Bingo.
It's this dragging it out that's allowing the press to keep talking about it day in and day out. Turn it into a parking lot.
Do you think it was finished by December of 23 that you would have had demonstrations at UCLA forcing kids, Jewish kids, to put their hands in red paint and vow to support Palestine? Do you think that you would have had the different kind of things like that?
No.
If they finished it by December of 23?
No, not at all.
But it was because of fear that they lose American support.
Right.
Right?
I just quibbled with the date. I mean, they should have done it much sooner.
Much so, yes. Right? Well, we can. So I'm going to read the last two paragraphs, but it's really, if you really listen to Kahane, he's talking about doing politics from a theological place of faith in God, from being a Jew. That's really what he's saying. Right?
Right.
Now, you may agree or disagree with that, but it doesn't sound crazy, does it? Which is what I was taught he was. So these are two quotes from him. Faith in man rather than in God of Israel, rather than the God of Israel, is an abomination and more. It displays a brutal ignorance of what the state of Israel is. It is the ignorance of small, narrow, secular Jews whose lack of Jewishness leads to an ignorance of Judaism and Jewish destiny. The state of Israel is not an ordinary state. It is not merely one other. It is a special one. It is the chosen land of the chosen people, and its rebirth after 1900 years of Jewish exile is a divine miracle that all but the willfully blind can see. And in this miracle is the clear shattering of the myth of dependence on the Gentile, of reality, of practicality. Again, that quote that I said on Yom Kippur from Alistair Heath, right? It was about anti-Semitism. Forgive me if I get part of it wrong, but I know the last sentence very clearly. When he's saying, why is there anti-Semitism? Why? Because if you look at the fact that Israel, despite it being hated, despite how small it is, despite how undermanned and underpowered it is, still survived, then one has to ask oneself, is God still in the equation? Is God an absent landlord, an absentee landlord, or is he in the equation? And then Heath makes this great, right? Maybe God is not a myth, but is part of it. Maybe the Jewish people are here because of divine intervention. Maybe the Jews are not a people, but a testimony. Maybe that's the reality. We are the testimony that God exists, so everyone wants to kill us because they don't want to accept that there's a God. Isn't that a brilliant, from Alistair Heath? Faith in the God of Israel, who took us out of the cauldron of Pharaoh's Egypt, who led us through the desert for 40 years, and who overcame kings and empires, and caused us to survive pogroms and crusades and Auschwitzes. Belief and trust in the omnipotence and total ability of the God of Israel to save his people, if we trust in him and are deserving of it. Certainly Jews do not merely pray. Of course we have weapons and we use them well. Of course, prayer without actions is not enough. But Jewish magnificent victory without prayer is a delusion. Isn't that a great line? Mm-hmm. Victory without prayer is a delusion. So let us bury the tiny mines of little faith and believe and do. Let us go out with full faith in that belief and do what is necessary to ensure our survival. For 2 years and 3 days, I have sent out emails. I have written over 1 million words. Okay? And constantly, since that first day, I kept saying, we need faith and we need action, right? Pray, give your time, money, effort, energy. We raised over $700,000, not just in Israel, but helped raise over $700,000 for a hospital in Israel, right? Mm-hmm. Golf tournament that golfathon that my sons did, right? Some of you helped sponsor that. I'm sure they'll hit you up again next time. They raised over 50 grand, teenagers, for golf, right? And the whole time I've been saying, we need faith and we need action. You can't just have action without faith. You can't have faith without action. And then I read Kahane, and I'm going, oh, crap. Yeah. Okay? Because I'm only repeating what he said. Now, what do you guys think of this teaching? For how many of you was this new? What do you think of these teachings?
He was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
This is why it pays to always read first person.
Right.
That's right. This is why it pays to always read first person. This is why it pays to study the Torah in Hebrew.
Yeah, the primary source.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where do we go from here? Well, there's more snacks in the faith and action, and waking people up and educating. I get so much hate from different people for saying, look, history is history. There is no Palestine. Okay? Cenk Younger can make up all the crap he wants to. So can Piers Morgan. So can Tucker Carlson. Doesn't mean it's true. So 4 times Piers Morgan's producer called me to ask me to be on a show. 4 times I said, by myself, or are you going to have some other person? Oh, we're going to have like a young Turk, or maybe we'll bring, you've been on Canada, maybe I'll have Canada. It's like, nope. Not interested.
Yeah.
They said, and Bharati is her name. She said, why? And I said, because I'm no more interested in getting into a clickbait fight with someone for Piers Morgan than I am if I'm walking in an elementary school play yard and the 3-year-old is screaming at me from the sandbox. I'm not going to go have a dialogue with the 3-year-old. If someone wants to scream and make up stories, they're going to scream and make up stories. Our job is to be a light unto the nations and to educate and to say, look, this is what really, it's right here. And to make people think, wait, if it's all about the land from 1967, then what was going on? All of Kahane's points are pretty valid. Mm-hmm. Right? If it's all about the occupied territories, quote unquote, why are we still calling them occupied territories 61 years later? Right? If it's all about those pieces of land, why were they doing this before 1967? Riddle me that. Right? Those are the kind of things to make people think. And they're going to, or they're not, or they're going to continue to hate Jews. But we also need to remember, what can we do? That we have a partner who chose us and we chose him. And I only say him because, as I say, she's a big girl. She can take care of herself. That's what we can do. We can act and we can do a thing. So I've said this now for 2 years. One thing every single person can do, and I said this during the holidays, take on a new mitzvah. One new mitzvah. Stop eating pork. Decide to be kosher. Don't have milk and meat. Light Shabbat candles. Decide that for one day a week, you're going to give the day up to God. So you're not going to go on your phone for that one day, or you're not going to do whatever. Just take on one new mitzvah. And that makes a difference. Because Rabbi Nachman teaches that if you can imagine a light coming from your finger, if you move your finger just that much, it makes no difference here. But if that light went 1,000,000 miles, it makes a huge difference. And every mitzvah that we take on, every good deed that we choose to do, every time we decide to stop when there's a homeless guy in the street and say, yeah, here's some change, what's your name? Not just, here, you, whatever, but rather, here, what's your name? And treat them like a human being. Every time we do a good deed like that, it makes a difference. I try not to tell people what to do, but I will tell you that, we're supposed to put our Hanukkahs or Hanukkah menorahs in the window, right? And I'll tell you, many people did not in December of 23. Me, I bought an extra 8-foot high blow-up dreidel, put it around the house. Say, this is where the rabbi lives. Go screw yourself. Okay. Yeah. Loudly.
The propaganda campaign that's been so effective, the indoctrination of BDS out of Durban, 2002, I think, the Holy Land trial, with the documents that say what the intention is of the Muslim Brotherhood. I get a lot of people saying to me, I didn't know all of this about Kahane, but I've been espousing. I'm a child released by this Holocaust survivor, so it's probably in my DNA too. And on that level of fear. And they want facts.
So one of the things that I encourage everyone to do, I even encourage keeping it as a page on your phone. Avalon Law, Yale has a wonderful site to translate beautifully. Put on your phone or keep with you the Covenant of 1988. It is the Hamas Charter. Okay? And when they say they only want peace, then show it up to them and say, okay, you understand this says that part of the Muslim Brotherhood, but look what it says in the preamble. The day of judgment is only going to come when every Jew is killed, and those few that are still alive hide between the rocks, behind the rocks and the trees, and the tree cries out, Abdullah, a Muslim, come and kill the Jew that is hiding behind me. That's it. It says specifically, every Jew in the world needs to die. This is in the Hamas Charter. Yeah.
But people are lazy.
Loudly.
People are lazy.
Thank you guys.
I have sent that charter. Like, I was horrified when I read it the
One
first time.
second. My bedroom is
showing.
My bedroom is showing. Bad bedroom, bad bedroom. This is where we keep our air mattresses. That's where we sleep. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. The bedroom door was open. I had it clear. It's a mess in that bedroom. I've got twins and a dog. Please go ahead.
I mean, I was saying that people are lazy. Selena's saying it's because they don't care. I have sent that 1988 charter to so many people when they buy, like the bullshit propaganda. And I've had friends say to me, I don't understand what you're posting on your social media. How is it so completely different than what the media is saying? And I'll send them the charter. Read it for yourself, and they won't read it.
Then there's nothing you can do. There's nothing that can be done. If someone says, I believe this, and it doesn't matter what. Okay. Take a great story. Many years ago. Okay. So we've talked about it every Yom Kippur. Talmud argues a lot about a lot of things. But one of the things it doesn't argue about is in two different places, the rabbis agree that Yom Kippur is one of the two happiest days of the year. Okay? So there was a Persian man in the community of the temple I was at the time who said, Rabbi, you cannot be happy on Yom Kippur. I said, well, but that's what it said. No, you cannot be happy. And so I created this handout. and I cited the Talmud, and I cited commentaries by people like Shlomo Riskin, and I cited why, if a sad day like Tisha B'Av falls on a Shabbat, you move Tisha B'Av, but if Yom Kippur falls on a Shabbat, it's all different thing. I talked about that. I all quotes, okay, and I gave it to him, and I said, look, Hushain, here, I'd like you to read on. Let's talk about it. It's about Yom Kippur. This is text. He goes, I don't care what it says. That's literally what he did. How do you respond to that? You can't. There's nothing that I can say. There just isn't. If someone wants to be delusional, they will be delusional. If someone wants to say queer Jews for Palestine, and they believe, my answer is, do you want flight? I'll help pay for your ticket if you want. Let's see what happens to you with 1 week in Gaza. So, does that make sense? So it's about, you can't fix everything. You can only try and be a light.
I think it's important to remember there's a quote. These people who, when we send them resources, primary resources, and they go, I don't believe
Guys,
it.
Let's stay together for just a couple more minutes. We're gonna finish from this.
The Gentile or the anti-Semite does not ask the Jew for the information because he actually wants it. He wants to see you turn your pockets out to prove that you didn't steal. The anti-Semite doesn't say, "Oh, the Jew stole. Let me see your." He knows you didn't steal. He wants you to be a Jew and turn out your pockets and be humiliated.
And one of the great things I really love about Kahane Jabotinsky, is this concept that the stereotype of the Yid, should be removed. I remember being a child and reading Mila 18. How many read Julia Yers's Mila 18? And I remember a scene that stuck with me my whole life. It's when one of the guys is kidnapped, or he's taken captive. He's taken in to go meet the leaders of the resistance, and he makes this reference. Does anyone else remember this scene? He makes this reference to the 3 men who are the Jewish leaders who are standing in front of him, this mountain of a man and this tank of a man, and he realized these were the Maccabees. You know what? I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. So you ask the question, do we say that we're Jewish or not Jewish? Well, you know what? May God and our Glocks or SIGs protect us. Okay? And most importantly, God. And look, is it disturbing to get a phone call from the chief of police saying, Rabbi, go get a gun and I'm going to get you CCW? Chairman, I don't know that I want a gun. Rabbi, go get I don't know that the chief of police is calling you and telling you they're credible threats. Get a gun. Go get an effing gun. Is that a fun call to get? No. But I'm sure still not going to back down and stop being Jewish. I'm not going to hide and say, oh, let's go be the quote-unquote good Jew who's going to be dead. And say, oh, let's just give, like these guys who went out to the Israeli embassy and said, oh, let's just give everything, we'll ceasefire, we'll withdraw, and in 60 days, they're going to give us back the hostages. I don't know that they're going to give us back the hostages on Monday.
They reported today that returning the bodies could be a very complex problem and don't know when they can do it.
Yeah, if we get all the live ones, let's see if we can. Those are hostages. The dead people are victims. So I hope this was, how many was this valuable for? So I hope this was worthwhile. And the other thing that we can do is spread this kind of knowledge so that other people don't grow up the way that I did, thinking Kahane was a crazy Meshuggah guy. Okay? Thank you guys. Please come have some dessert. So, yeah, thank you.